Welcome to the Talk Story podcast, and today I'm your guest host, Richard Ellerington. And the reason that I'm here is because the two other hosts couldn't be bothered to show up. In fact, we couldn't find them, and suddenly I am thrown into the hot seat that is normally used by Mark Chu or AJ Ellerington, my daughter, in fact. But I'm filling in today, and I'm stoked to fill in today because we have one of the legends of the church world here in Southern California, Mark Forman, who's been leading North Coast Calvary Chapel for over 30 years and actually has just gone through this transition moment of handing the church on to its new season of leadership. So I'm super stoked to have Mark with me, and we're going to get deep, real, and intense.
Sounds scary.
It does sound scary, doesn't it?
Hey guys, and aloha. It's Mark Sawyer Chu.
And AJ Ellerington,
Together we'll be hosting the Christian Surfers podcast
where we talk Jesus
and talk with surfers that love Jesus.
Tune in to hear some amazing stories.
Okay, Mark, so they've had my little introduction, but tell us the background story. So for those who don't know, where are you from? What's the deal?
Yeah, I accepted Christ 2 a.m. in my bedroom as an 18-year-old. Surfer, playing rock and roll, and athletic runner, and mixed up, just looking for meaning.
Yeah. What year was this? What year would that be?
69.
So we're smack bang in the middle of the, well, not smack bang in the middle, but the back end of the 60s.
Yeah, it's in the start of the whole, as the Jesus movement was just about to emerge. And I was searching for meaning. I wasn't searching for forgiveness. I just like, what's it all about? And in a particular way, God showed up in my bedroom and I just said, whoever you are, let's do this thing. I didn't know it was Jesus. A few weeks later, I realized it's Jesus. A few weeks later, I realized he was the Son of God. A few weeks later, I realized he died for my sins, and I was just on this journey of discovery. But I think what that's left in my heart is that I was an unlikely candidate for the church. And so I've always had a heart to win people to Jesus who want to say yes to Jesus, but it's for some reason said no to the church.
Was that a driving force behind wanting to go and plant churches and be a leader in that church to try and reshape the?
Yeah. Because I'm not a part of rearranging churches and kind of musical chairs of Christians going to the cool church of the moment. But finding unbelievers and having those conversations. And that's a tough journey because not everybody walks around like fruit ready to fall off a tree. You have to spend time and hours and days, years sometimes, being friends with people, having conversations, let them see your life, let them ask all of the tough questions to someday give their lives to Christ. And I love that.
That's very much a missional mindset.
Yeah.
But in a invitational world. So what I mean by that is that many churches have a bring the world to a church service.
Yeah.
Go and invite all your friends. If you still have some non-Christian friends, but if you do, get them here on Sunday, and then we'll share the gospel with them.
Yeah.
But that's very much a missional mindset of going to where they are.
We were planning a church on the East Coast, and just before opening Sunday, we had this big meeting, and I asked everyone, and I tricked them. I said, have you been hanging around non-Christians? And no one raised their hand. They kind of looked around. No, it's not me, Lord, not me. And then I said to them, shame on you. Why are we here? That's why Jesus crossed the infinite gap from heaven to earth, from deity to humanity, to become one of us. And so we have to be with non-Christians to love them just like he loved us. So I call myself a salt shoveler.
Salt shoveler.
Shoveler, okay. Because the church is filled with salt. Jesus said, you're the salt of the earth, the light of the world. But we're all packed in a room. So we're not the salt of the earth or the light of the world. We're just salt and light. And my job is to promote getting out of the walls of the church, not getting in the walls.
Okay, recording.
Every surfer and every surfing community should have the opportunity to know and follow Jesus.
That's why we want to share with you an exciting new project.
The Surfer's Bible!
The Surfer's Bible won't just be in printed form, but it'll also be digital.
And this will include testaments, devotionals, and reading plans, all online and consistently updated.
As part of the global movement, you can make this fantastic idea a reality.
For as little as $10, you can get a printed Bible in the hands of a surfer who has never read one before.
That's a Bible in the hands of a surfer at the local beaches.
Lives will be changed and hearts will be softened.
For every surfer!
I think we did it.
We did it. Phil?
Are we done or are we...
So what are some of the things that you have done where you think, over the years, that's been really effective in moving that salt into the world? Because you have, by many people's estimations, a big church. I mean, I think the average church in the US is around about 40 to 60. Who knows the other side of the pandemic?
Yeah.
So you have numerically a much bigger church than that. So how do you mobilize that group of people that love to gather together, and how do you get them out?
Over years of teaching,
Yeah.
letting them know that sharing Christ, being with your neighbors, using illustrations from my sermons when I'm with people so that they realize, oh, that's what I do. I'm at work, I'm at school, I'm in sport. I just don't ever think of bringing Jesus with me. So I use examples, and then I joke with them at times. And I'll say something like, how many of you are not serious about sharing Christ with other people? Because we need your chair if you're not. And they kind of look at each other like, is this guy kidding?
Yeah.
And
They feel uncomfortable.
And then I'll say, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Just kidding. But they realize
Yeah.
I'm pushing them. And then, originally we just let everybody organically, and we just say, you have a unique set of friends, a unique a sphere of influence. Build the relationships so that you can share Christ. And they hear that over and over again, that the mission of the church is to be transformed by Jesus so that we can transform our world. And then finally, we developed programs. So for shy people who didn't know what to do, that they could go out and feed the homeless, so that they could go out and remodel a public school and putting the fingerprints of Jesus into our community. Or like we did in the pandemic, we fed the ICU unit, doctors and nurses. For a long time, we helped gather masks when right in the initial stages, there weren't enough. And we just, the idea is this is normal Christianity. Nobody's doing anything extraordinary.
That's what I love in the Bible. It talks about these were ordinary men who spent time with Jesus.
Yeah.
And I think that when we're spending time with Jesus, you can't help but be missional. You can't help but be on that journey to reach those around you, because the very character of Jesus is to go to those who are lost. And it confounds me that so many Christians or those who say they're followers of Jesus are just very happy to sit within the bubble of finding something that helps them feel better about themselves, as opposed to taking the message of Christ to others.
I think it's easy because they see it modeled by the pastor. The pastor's a talker, and the pastor seems to always be right. And so we want to go out and be a talker and always be right. And you have to take the time to build relationships and love, and anybody can do that. To be patient, to be kind, to be a listener, to be a doer, earning the right to be heard.
We know you as this pastor that's been leading this church for all these years. But there's other elements to your life other than just leading the church. You've been alluding to that earlier. So what are the other passions in your life?
Yeah. Well, surfing is one of them. And my goal last year was to still be surfing when I turned 70. I just thought, wow, what the heck is that, you know? And so this year it was 71.
Wow.
And I just, you know, it's a very unforgiving sport. So if you take a long time out, it's going to beat you up as you get back into it. But as my sons say often, I got to go get baptized. It's when you've been out of the water, you get back in and something happens because it is unlike other sports. You're suddenly floating.
Yeah. You're
in a different medium. And it just does something for my diving does the same thing for me. So just being in the water. What else do I like to do? One of the things I love to do is audiobook, biographies, adventures, particularly sailing adventures, things out on the water.
Recommend to us a book. Something you've...
Nothing is... these aren't Christian books.
Yeah,
these are just... the biography of James Cook, Magellan, Francis Drake, on the Polynesian people, sea peoples, all of these. I just somehow the idea of going from an island to an island.
Wow.
I think that captures the surfer's heart. You know, what is that? And why would anybody do that? You know, and actually, it affords me commonality with people when I read something they've read for something that we can talk about.
Let's switch tact and let's go into some of the stuff over the last 30 years that you've seen lots of changes in culture within the US. What have been some of the things that have really been like turning points? 30 years, we've seen presidents come and go. We've seen the polarization of a country, which actually is probably some of that has now polarized the world. I'm in South Africa and people are shouting and screaming about whether it should be Trump in a country that they're not even part of. So what have been some of the things which you think have been cultural shifts that are important to put a marker on and go, okay, this is where we're going?
We could get into that in a lot of different ways. Let me try this tack. If you look at the culture and say, okay, let's slice up culture in 4 different segments. And one segment is liberal. And by liberal, I think we could say that could include political, but it doesn't have to be restricted to, you know, that anything goes, and we should all to be open to anything into the future. Back of that would be progressive, and back of that would be conservative, and back of that would be reactionary. Reactionary is conservatives, we not only have the brakes on for where everybody wants to take culture, but we have an idea, and particularly if I'm a Christian, I'm looking at morality, I'm looking at my children, what's best for, I'm looking at family, the definition of family and marriage and all these things. A reactionary actually wants to take the world back, and it's fighting to take people back. So this is where the church finds herself, and usually the church is lumped, the conservative church is lumped into the last 2 categories of being conservative or reactionary. I think politically over the last 8 years, the reactionary has just grown huge. So the question is, step away from culture and politics for a moment and now step into America as a missionary. And as a missionary, I have to ask myself, who am I here to reach? Because what segment I go into is going to limit what tribe I can be in. And so consequently, liberal and progressives rarely ever hear the gospel of Jesus Christ. And they have typecast Christians as being a certain way, bigoted, hateful, because we feel very passionate about certain issues. So Jesus had both types on his team as disciples, because Jesus had the view of something bigger than all of us, the kingdom of God. Something bigger than the Oval Office, the kingdom of God. And it's not to diminish politics or diminish, but it's actually to promote something that is actually bigger, King Jesus.
Yeah.
And can a liberal, conservative, progressive, or reactionary, can any of them come and follow Jesus? And once we do, we don't fit Jesus into our pockets. Oh, I'm so glad he's on my team. He validates everything I think. I like him because he validates me and shows how right I am and how wrong they are. What Jesus does to me is he just undoes me. And truth cuts both ways. It doesn't just cut the other guy. It cuts me. And then now, as a follower of truth, I have to love that person who thinks differently and votes differently than me.
Hey, are you a young, frothing surfer who loves catching waves and sharing your faith with others? Do you want to make a difference in your surfing community and help others discover Jesus? Then you need to join Sea Salt, the Christian Surfers Advanced Leadership Training Program. Sea Salt is a program designed specifically for young surfers who want to develop their leadership skills, grow in their faith, and serve practically on the ground in existing surfing communities. You'll get to go on road trips, learn about theology and mission, and have loads of fun with other young surfers who share your passion for Jesus and the ocean. Sign up for Sea Salt today.
So I find that turn of phrase fascinating. Jesus validates me.
Right.
And I think that is a thing that many Christians have fallen into the trap of doing, is that because I'm a follower of Jesus, I have exclusivity to truth. And,
that's a good phrase.
Kind of like through this pandemic thing, as a local church pastor and working in missions, unless I had a certain particular belief that other Christians were now holding,
right,
with regards to COVID and masks and vaccines, I was up to be shot. In fact, there was no way to win because everybody was so divided. How did you find that experience?
Out of 50 years of ministry, the hardest and most painful. Everything from masks, vaccinations, to meeting, not meeting, meeting in the building, meeting outside, taking a stance politically or not taking a stance, and it seemed like everything was a lose-lose. There was someone coming in judging me, or there was someone coming and saying, I'm leaving the church because of such and such a reason. How much do they have to agree with me to come to Jesus Christ? If they have to have my view on abortion before they can come to Christ, or on sexuality, or on transgender, or on, the list just goes on and on and on and on and on. No one will come to Christ, and we have a holy huddle that is sanctified and waiting for the rapture. Or, and this is the beauty, I think, of surfers. I think surfers, at least when I was young, we didn't have a lot of cred in the 60s and 70s. It was like worthless scum.
Yeah.
Why are they wasting all their time on waves? And now, of course, you have attorneys, doctors that are surfing, and now it's an accepted sport. But because of our roots, we're outlaws that have found Jesus. And so I think we offer some hope that we too can go out and win people who are outlaws to the love of Jesus Christ and watch Jesus transform them.
I want to pick up on that that thing you talked about, people who were close that stepped away because of issues which were, if we were to zoom out, you'd go, okay, are they the reasons we're really going to stop being friends? And I remember sick family members, my family. Well, no, my family. I mean, my family have pro-vax, full-on, anti-vax, full-on, and sure, trying to operate as a family through all of that suddenly became incredibly complicated. Nobody's ever going to see any of those things happening, and how we'll find out how we do Christmas this year as we all come together. But the thing that's been so painful in all of this journey is the fact that after all of this investment in relationship, it was so quickly destroyed. I can't get my head around that. It's like we lost. I don't know what happened, but it just seemed to, in the matter of 6 months, crumble away. How did you cope emotionally? You and your wife and your family, as those things started to happen?
Audiobooks. When I wake up in the middle of the night and there's that person right in front of your face, you gotta give them to Jesus. But truthfully, when I'm, it's not just recent, in times past, as a pastor, there's a lot of people that tell you to your face that you're wonderful, and then they can be the first to go out the back door. That's a tough thing. So what I went through early on was reading the passage of how many times do I forgive? 70 times 7. So I said, I know it's figurative, but I'm going to take it literally. And so every day, first thing I would do when I wake up, I would forgive them out loud. And then I would go one step further and pray a blessing on their life. Now you might argue that, did you really mean it? Eventually I did. And I didn't get to 490 times. Eventually I wasn't thinking about them anymore. And sometimes you do run into them in the community. Others you don't. Others, they actually come back. The story's not over yet. It's different scenarios. But Jesus even talked about the wheat and the chaff. We can't try to separate it all before the harvest. So I let that go and just try to be faithful. But I go through the actual process of praying forgiveness and blessing.
And this processing thing, I think, is important. I met this guy in Hawaii called Tom Bauer, who runs Surfing the Nations. And as I arrived to have a meeting with him, he was scribbling away inside this little book. And actually, I was expecting him just to close the book and have the meeting, but he actually stopped and said, "Hang on, Richard, you just wait a second. I just got to finish this phrase." I was like, that's a bit of a strange way to start a meeting. I just scribbled away, bang, sorry, I had to get that out. So I was like intrigued. What was he writing? So I said, "So what is that you're scribbling away in, Tom?" And he held it up and he said, "It's my betrayal journal." I was, what is that? What's a betrayal journal? And he explained to me that he thinks that the key to his longevity in ministry, he's been in ministry 30 years plus, and he says the key to that journey has been how he has processed betrayal. And he said the first 10 years he really struggled. So many people let him down, so many moments of betrayal in life, not just in ministry, but in life. And what was tripping us up, he had no process by which to deal with it. He didn't have anywhere to go with it. And so this journaling process of, just like you're doing every day, pray, forgiveness, move towards blessing that person and writing the stuff out. And I thought to myself, wow, this is important, because actually there are so many hurts through life that you can pass away because maybe they're incidental and they don't mean so much, but the ones that you can't, that really wound deep, are the people who do something deliberate, intentional. There's been a discussion behind closed doors.
Right.
Today, I'm going to tell you that I'm leaving because I'm not happy. And you go, I thought you were one of my closest friends.
Right.
And it's an intentional, that just goes so deep.
And it's so mind-boggling because there's so many scriptures you have to rip out of the pages of the Bible to do that.
Yeah.
To disunity, and it's usually associated with gossip, with slander, and all of this other stuff that's gone on in the name of being right. And I think it speaks to a flaw that's in the modern church. That we have not done a good job of teaching the importance of the absolutes of Scripture over the importance of politics. Like in America, I can only critique my country, but in America, I don't think conservative Christians are real good at separating conservative politics and conservative faith. Just all kind of blend in. So we stand. So if I'm defending not worshiping with a mask, that's the same as the deity of Christ, and I'm not able to back off. Whereas the Moravians, really the first modern missionary movements in the church back in the 1500s, they quoted a guy from the 1400s, and I don't have it memorized anymore, but essentially it went like this: in essentials, unity; in non-essentials, freedom; and in everything, love.
Wow.
We jump everything into essentials.
Yes. One box.
And if you don't agree with me on this, I'm out of here, because there's a restaurant down the street who's saying what I want him to say from the pulpit. And I just wondering, what's the heart of God do when we jump around like a singles bar from restaurant to restaurant based on who's got the best margarita?
How do we get back to that place of unity? How do we, we are at a turning point in history. How do we as a church, as a missionary organization, as a bunch of surfers around the world, how do we be counterculture and bring this thing back to Jesus?
That is the question. That is the question. That's the question all pastors need to be asking ourselves right now, because I think the gift of this cultural moment is we have been stripped.
Yeah.
So why would we go back to being attractional churches where we, pretty please, would you come to our church? We'll be good. We'll worship a certain way. We'll do this. Why would we go back to an attractional model? Why not go to a transformational model where we really are training our people to be with unlovely, different sorts of people in their neighborhoods to win them eventually to Christ? That's the model that we have to go to.
We're going to need some brave leaders.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the temptation to jump back to what you know, because it's your DNA, is so very strong.
Yeah.
But we have been given, as you said, we've been given this moment, we've been stripped back.
Yeah.
Surely this is the moment that we can...
This could be, we may look at this moment from heaven and see it as the biggest gift that we were ever served.
Mark, thank you for your time. It's been phenomenal to hang out with Mark, and betrayal, surfing, ministry, family life, the whole thing. It's been insane to hear your story, Mark. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us on Talk Story with your surprise host, Richard Ellerington, here, a Christian Surfers podcast. Love it. You.